I'm Trisha Harmon.
I'm Heidi Waldheis.
And I'm Sarah Seberg. And we are
Unfiltered.
I was made for this. I was made for this.
I'm so proud of us when we get that right.
Wow, we nailed it. We've
We
come
totally
a long
did.
ways. We're practically
I know, we didn't even
professionals
have to
now.
do like a second take on that one. That's because I didn't have a whole lot of words to say afterwards. Logistics.
I know, a few words.
And we did it
Makes
backwards.
good, so.
We did.
I know, and look at nailed
Look at
it.
us. We're so good. We're so amazing.
All right.
Okay, so today we are going to talk about the rug. You know what rug I'm talking about. The rug that you shove everything under so that you don't have to
Deal with
it or talk about it or handle
See it.
life in any way.
Pretend it's
And
not there. Your rug might have a big old hump in the middle
Yeah.
at some point, but not
Yeah.
there.
So pretty much your rug is full and my rug is full and it's time to empty it.
We're gonna. Okay.
I'm just going to air all my dirty laundry. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no! How much time? No.
12 hours later.
Oh.
So yeah, I think this is going to be a really important one because I very much struggle with this. And I think it's going to be a good topic.
Yes, and I think if you've grown up in a home where this was the norm, it has cascading repercussions of it. Not only do you do the same thing, you now have that rug you don't talk about, this rug we don't talk about, your siblings' rugs that you don't talk about.
Yep.
It's just where you keep your junk because you don't talk about that. So when other people are around, you pretend it's not there. Nothing to see here.
So where do you think that comes from? Why do you think that we have this rug that we hide stuff under? Where do you think that originated, or why do you think that it happens? Any thoughts on that one?
Yeah.
I'm thinking, because that's a deep question. I think growing up, I had no idea that I was shoving things under a rug. I wasn't thinking of that. I
Right.
was just thinking, I don't have permission to talk. I don't know how to talk. I don't know who to talk to. So I just didn't talk.
Right.
So I think it originates from not knowing how to handle conversations that really are uncomfortable.
Yes.
Or confronting somebody that you know what kind of response you probably will get, and you're not up for it. Or they'll never be able to understand me. What will they think of me? So
Right.
all these predispositions that we put on people that just kind of make us shrink back and go back into our nice little safe zone. And I think that's the carpet.
So if it's not modeled for you when you're growing up, how to communicate?
right.
I mean,
Or if it's modeled for you where that carpet gets picked up, that rug gets picked up, and everything goes flying, and it's all out in the air, and you can't make heads or tail, you have no idea, you don't know how to collect anything.
right.
That's the last place I'm going to go again, is
Very
to that.
true. Yeah.
So
Yep.
Yeah.
So did you both grow up in households where there weren't a lot of open conversation?
There were not conversations that were meaningful of any kind. It never happened in our house. We didn't talk about, this is how you handle this situation. This is how you stand up for yourself in an appropriate way. This is how you receive criticism, and that it's not, there is such a thing as constructive criticism, but I grew up believing all criticism is just that. You were really lousy, you failed, you didn't do it good enough, and here we are again having to tell you. So because of I want everybody to be happy and please you, it's already in my nature not to confront. So all that stuff where I'm like, but I wanted to stand up for myself, but didn't feel like I'm in an environment where I could, nor did I know what that looked like.
Right.
It has to go someplace. So for me, that was my rug, all this stuff that was never modeled. I wasn't allowed to express a full range of emotions. There was one emotion that you had to have. Well, I guess compliancy, if that is one, and look happy. That's what was allowed. As soon as we were out those doors or anyone around, no matter what, we had to look a certain way. So I never learned how to be upset justifiably in a healthy way.
Right.
It's like you just fake it. You just fake it. So the real stuff went under. There's a lot of real things under those rugs, but there's a lot of dark, ugly secrets under rugs too
Right.
that should be revealed, because it's like it can be abuse. It can be so many things. So I think there's quite a casserole of things under carpets. I think the good and the bad, and just things you've never been taught and you've never learned how to address it or handle it.
How about you growing up? Same thing.
Whatever happened at home needed to stay at home. It wasn't to be shared outside. So we knew that rule. But we also had a pattern. And I would have to say it was specific to me.
Okay.
My older brother, I have an older brother and a younger sister. My brother was a peacekeeper, people pleaser, and very, very compliant. My sister was pretty much a wallflower for a while, shy, introvert, funny, quick-witted, but she was the baby. And I was the rule breaker, but it got to a point where I felt like I was walking on eggshells in a situation until I couldn't stand it anymore.
Right.
And then everything would explode. So conversations were only at an explosive level, it seemed like, for the most part. So when we finally did talk about it, that's, where that rug came up. And then there was the explosion, and then there was the recovery.
Right.
And the remorse and rebuilding and things like that.
Right.
So I would say definitely an unhealthy pattern was established in my childhood that I took into my adulthood too, because I found myself having those conversations, but seeming like it was only heard at a certain volume.
Right.
And and maybe that goes into some of this too. It's like you can only go there so many times before you just start shutting down. And then when you finally do have it, it's like, poof, mushroom.
Oh, I was a shutter downer for sure. But then literally, I was shut down because I was frozen. I had absolutely no idea how to respond, how to react. So then I got accused of being defiant. You're just being belligerent. You're being defiant and disrespectful. And I'm like, so now I'm adding that into my frozen state. And now I'm being punished. And now I'm grounded because I'm being so defiant. And I'm literally frozen into complete inaction. And I carried that through my 40s. Like, I literally would be frozen, terrified that I'm going to make the wrong choice or I'm going to say something wrong, or my face, I'm trying to figure out, what does my face look like? Do I look like I'm mad? Because I'm not mad.
You're processing, but you don't.
I was constantly accused that you're just cold, you don't care, you're defiant, you're rude, you're this. And I'm like, I'm none of those things. I'm like breaking and dying inside, and I don't know what to say. I don't know how to handle or deal with this because nobody showed me ever. That range of emotions, my goodness, it's like, teach your kids that emotions are normal and how to deal with them. But, again, that came with them from their upbringings and families, and then they join
it's a
in.
pattern. It just keeps going until somebody's willing to break it.
Say,
and
enough.
stand up and say, this, just because this is how it's been done for all this time doesn't mean that that's how we should continue doing it. I I don't think I ever really had like deep conversations at my house. I know I never did with my brothers. I mean, they're a lot younger than me, but we never really talked about anything deep. Everything was surfacey. Everything was just, let's keep the peace. I don't do so well with that. I tend to do the explosive thing. But when I think back on it, I think I've had more deeper conversations with my parents in my late 30s and into my 40s than I did ever before then, because I forced it. I would, you know, I don't want to just talk about the weather or just talk about this or that, or, you know, I want to talk about real things that matter.
Please.
And, you know, my extended family, both sides, they have ginormous rugs, you know, that nobody ever talked about anything. Like, we have divorce and we have crazy stories on both sides of the family from all these different things, and nobody talks about it. To the point where even when I was like a later teen or in my 20s, there were things that happened I didn't even know about. And then I'd go, wait, what? Right. And I'm like, why aren't we talking about that? I would love to have been able to come around them and say, are you okay? You've gone through this. You know,
The
all
difference
of
it
that.
could have made for these people
Right.
that are in family
oh my
trees
gosh,
or whatever.
you're going through that too? So did I. I
Right.
had no idea. You know,
You feel more normal
You do.
when you
do.
find out other people
Yes.
had those struggles and those hard
Yeah.
times and went through those experiences. But it's like this false sense of upbringing where in your little bubble, I guess it's out like this everywhere. And
That's
it's
it, in the
not.
bubble. You stay in your little bubble and you're like, I'm in my little bubble world and I'm all good. And I don't, you know, if I don't have to talk about anything major, nobody will pop my bubble and I'm all
I
fine
know,
and I'm
it's
all
gonna
good.
be great. And that rug is fantastic with all
Yeah.
that stuff.
Yeah.
It's
and I
not.
think it's this younger generation, and I think the millennials started it, but I think Gen Z is really where it's going in the, all right, enough. You know, we want to have real conversations with each other. We want to talk about the real stuff. We don't want to just, you know, like, why are you just being all, I don't even know what the word would be these days for it, you know, but the fake and the, you know, all of that. They're forcing us, I feel as though, like, kind of we forced our parents' generation to do that same thing, is to open up a little bit more and open up a little bit more. And so I'm hoping that Gen Z is like, we're going to talk to our kids about everything, you know, and I've already seen that even just in like millennial parenting, where you allow your children to have the space to have the emotions. You validate that they're having the emotions rather than just like, shut up and stop crying and, you know, go in the corner or
Get
whatever,
over
and
it or-
exploring
Right.
what is your need right now.
I
You
think
know?
a lot of it is rooted in conformity as well.
yes.
Like we have an expectation of how we want our kids to present or represent
Right.
our
Yes.
family.
Right.
I remember I played softball and basketball. My brother played hockey and baseball and football. And, you know, you had a number on your jersey, but you had a name on your jersey.
Right.
And I just remember the pressure of I'm representing that family. And I think it's because so obviously I'm a little older and I can relate to the Kennedy era. I mean, even though he was assassinated in 1963, there was still the lingering effects.
Yes.
I mean,
Right.
even more so, you know,
Yes.
it's almost like it just
It became
became
iconic at that
iconic.
point, yeah.
Yeah. And so I remember just having the little, you know, dress and just, you know, it just made me think of that. And think of that era. It was all about presentation. It was all about
How you're perceived.
appearance.
And yes.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Yeah.
so when we don't know how to engage in a conversation, you know, Martin Luther King, he was all about peace. He was diplomatic. He did not go radical and ballistic on anybody.
Right.
And so that was an expectation. You had dialogue, but not to the point of making somebody feel uncomfortable. That just wasn't allowed. So even to this day, my in-laws and you know, I would say my parents more so in the last few years. Before my mom passed away, we had some of the best conversations. But even to this day, you don't talk about religion. You don't talk about politics. You don't talk about anything that's controversial that'll upset somebody else. We just aren't going. We're going to have fun. We're going to talk about
Right.
everything but.
Superficial.
And
Keep
for
it
somebody like me
surface.
who goes deep
Yeah.
and who is passionate,
Yeah.
it's hard.
But
Yeah.
It is very
keeps-
hard.
It
How
keeps
do
it all
we-
pretty and polished and good?
And how do
you
I
know,
maintain that authenticity
right.
in the presence of somebody who wants me to be everything like themselves?
Yep.
Yeah, we have a world full of people struggling, I think, with that question, or I hope that they are. If I wish more people were trying to figure out that, how am I authentic in this world, in all these situations where I'm respecting who I am, but I'm also respecting those that I live in this world with and that are around me. And man, if we could just find that common ground of mutual respect, regardless if we don't agree on the same thing, it doesn't mean that it has to become draw up the battle lines. And that's what saddens me so.
We're in a culture
Much.
like that right now.
Yes, I have. I may have mentioned her, a friend. Hi, Jay, if you're listening to this. She lives across the country. We have never met in person. We met online over a comment that we had both made on an article that we happened to both be reading, and we started talking outside of that, and we've been friends ever since. We are so alike, but then we're so polar opposite in other things like politics and things like that. But at the end of the day, we genuinely really like each other. I go to her for different things, and we can talk and converse back and forth that way about everything. And I've often said, my goodness, if Jay and I could just be the poster child of this is how it can be in
Yes.
the world. We have differing ideas and opinions, but we genuinely, it's like, girl, I love you. And you know that.
But you see each other for who you are. And
Yes.
you are not defined by your beliefs.
Right.
And so you have that authentic friendship that rises above any
Right.
kind of differences.
Absolutely. Well, all I want is just respect the fact that I have the opinions that I do, that I have come up with on my own after researching, having the information. This is the opinion that I have come up to. I am willing to respect anybody. All I want is just make that a
To
two-way
be
street.
valued and validated by somebody.
Yes.
So
Yes.
let me ask this question. What are the hindrances of not being able to clean that rug in a healthy way? What are some of the what are the ways that we inhibit and hinder each other from having those conversations that really need to be had in order to clean the rug?
Right.
Well, and I think you were saying that in a healthy way. I think that's the key. You know, we can
Right.
all empty our rugs.
Oh, yeah, we
you
can
know,
all
But-
just
but how
rip
do-
it
but
up,
how you
but
do
to
it
do it
healthy.
right.
Yeah.
So to
So-
properly do it.
So let's identify the ways that aren't healthy first. Like what are
Okay, so lumping all the stuff you have under the rug together in one
Big
you know, that doesn't
thing.
help in any
Like,
way
we're
because
gonna
everything's
address-
twisted and
Yeah.
right. So maybe separating it out, compartmentalizing it into different categories, and even sometimes for me, even saying something out loud or writing it down or just, you know, anything, almost I'm like, oh wait, that's not really that big of a deal.
Right.
You know, once I've taken it out from the rug and I've
And you
seen
break
and
it down.
I've named it and I've labeled it and I've said this, oh yeah, I didn't need to put that under there. That wasn't
Right.
necessary. But like you were saying with the explosion part of things, it's really hard for the other person that you're talking to if you're saying X, Y, Z, all
Bringing
of this,
it
you know what I
all
mean? And they're like,
into-
I can't even really follow what you're saying, and they also can't respond to what they're because it doesn't make any sense. And so I think that that's maybe step one is just categorizing it, saying these are the things that I really need to talk about, and then only sticking to that.
Yeah.
Trying
Keep
not
the
to go
main
down
thing.
on a
Right.
rabbit hole and go off on a
Right.
tangent this way and that way.
keeping the main
And
thing the
dealing
main
with-
thing?
Right. I
Yes.
think that that's really important. that's not easy.
No.
So like we can sit here and talk about it all day, but it's really, really not easy.
Just do this and it'll be great.
But I also think something else that hinders is having an expectation on how someone else should react or respond to what I'm
that's good.
saying
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. No, that's really good.
Yeah.
I agree
Because
with that.
It took years for that stuff to get shoved under there. One discussion isn't going to resolve all of these things that get put under those rugs. If the people that help contribute to that aren't on the same page of saying, hey, it's time, let's start breaking into this. Let's start pulling things out and deal with it. Is this in the keep, toss, or donate pile? That, you know, what are we going to do with it? If it's only one person that wants to do it, it's not going to really
I
go
think
that
it
far.
can
So
be done
how do you
because
do
I
it on
can't
just one
expect
side?
you to be what so my expectations on you should not really prescribe or what's the word I'm looking for? Control how I'm and what I say. But I also think too, having a non-emotional of my anger, like there's almost a resolve that we have to have within ourselves first before we ever come to the table to have
Absolutely,
a
we do.
conversation with somebody else. And I love when early on in my adult life, somebody said, seek to understand and then to be understood. And if we seek one another's
good.
hearts first, so that we hear that heart, we can understand that heart, we can reverberate what I hear you saying is,
they want to be heard.
and then we value, then we validate, then we can come together and have a more
Productive
dialogue
conversation. Yeah.
conversation, even if it gets into rhetoric, even if it does get into some kind of debate of, well, this is not how I see it.
Right. In the end result doesn't have
I
to be
understand what you're
agreement.
saying, but this isn't, this isn't how I see it, or this didn't really,
Right.
this isn't how it happened for me. I don't know.
And maybe in that too, I hear you saying like you have decided to make this decision to empty your rug, which means you have to be the one that is modeling how to have this conversation, because the other person might not, like you were saying, you're the one that's doing it. You know,
Right.
the other person might not be in that spot yet or be ready
Yeah.
to do that or know how to do that. And
Right.
so it is on us to say, we are going to take responsibility for this.
Exactly.
And we are going to approach this, like you were saying, you know, kind of, you're setting the tone for it, you know,
Yeah.
and you're saying, I'm going to come to you non-emotionally about this and just have,
And humbly, like,
and have a conversation.
I'm coming because I want to be part of the solution,
Right.
not part of the problem.
Right.
One of the hardest things for me is saying to somebody else, this hurt me. Like what you did hurt me. Or I had this feeling from it. Or like to
Yes.
not to just get so upset with it. My gut reaction, my first reaction is to get really upset about it. Most of the time go cry about it. Suck it all inside, hold it all inside, you know? And
Yeah.
so, but so many things, and I'm saying this and it's like so relevant as in like yesterday, but so many things could be resolved if we just were to not tuck it away and we were not just, you know, and got ourselves in a non-emotional state, you know, kind of deal with that and then say, when you said those words, that hurt, you know,
Right.
when you did this, it hurt. Because then that gives the other person an opportunity to, number one, know that they hurt us. Because a lot of times we hurt people and we don't even realize it.
Yes.
And then number two, for them to respond, and then we can hear that back.
Right.
And
You
it's
know?
so powerful what you said, because how often do we come in the rashness of the moment
Yes.
saying, you hurt me.
yes.
You always do this.
Right.
I'm sick and tired. We come in with the attack, with the accusatory, and the blame. It's your fault that
and
I'm
they're
hurt,
immediately.
rather
just-
than what you said
Right.
hurt me. It's the attitude.
that's hard to
it's
say.
the action,
I
isn't
know.
it? And to
So
stop
hard to
and
say.
say, wait, what is it that hurt me? And
Right.
and did I allow it to hurt me?
Mm-hmm.
Then I have ownership, because then you turn around and say, well, I'm sorry if that hurt you. whoa.
Whoa.
It's not the if that hurt me, or
I'm
I'm sorry I
that-
hurt. Yeah,
I'm sorry that my words hurt you.
right.
Yes.
I
Yes.
taking ownership.
Not that if thing. That changes the whole
Right.
tone of that.
right.
Up. That's
You're
a
or
convicting me
I'm
right now.
sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry
love
that I
you.
offended you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm
Yeah.
sorry that I offended you.
So
kind
you're
of
more
thing.
easily offended by
Right.
things like
It's-
that. And I'm like, oh, then I'm really like, okay, I'm ready to go
Yep.
now. No,
But why are those words so hard to say? Just simply, I'm sorry.
I was wrong.
Will you forgive
Will
me?
you forgive me?
That's it. Why is that so hard?
Is it-
like
Because
why
it's
do we have
human
to hold
nature
on?
always
I'm
wants
right.
to
I'm
be-
right all the time, and I imagine how beautiful life could be if we could just talk to each other
like,
like
how
that.
much time did I take being
Angry and
I
Like a whole
know.
day for me yesterday, a whole day, and
Ah.
I just had turned around and said, "What you did hurt my feelings. I was hurt by this. I don't even think you were meant to, but that's what happened."
Yes.
But
And
but
thinking
instead,
the
I let it
best
take
of-
over my whole day.
yeah, rather than
I
thinking
was
the
angry.
best of or thinking, expecting somebody to bring their best, we immediately go to, you meant to do this. This is
We
your
take it
fault.
so
So we
personally.
don't want to own our reaction.
Right.
Because
And
it's
then
their
we
fault.
and then we feel like we have a
It's
right
easier to blame
to
somebody else.
retaliate, to mull it
Yes.
over, to murmur and complain and go tell somebody else about our problem, and then, okay, so I know this isn't in our notes. We're not scripted or anything.
Wait, I'm like, I didn't get notes.
Oh, we're going off script.
We're off
Oh,
script.
no.
We're off script because
I need to talk to you. I'm feeling personally offended. But
well, I'm sorry that my words offend you.
I suppose I can get over it.
So good at practicing what we talk about.
Did that sound natural? No.
Okay, so non-scripted.
Okay. I this is not a shameless promo, but I wrote a book about this, and I didn't even realize it until we were in this conversation. I
That
went,
you had written a book
oh
about
my
it?
word!
I wrote a book.
I wrote a book.
Sometimes.
It's called Reclaiming Your Power Through Forgiveness, but I think it's really relevant because I do this roundtable thing. This is what I did with my kids. Like, I homeschooled my kids. You know, I have 7 kiddos, right? 7 kiddos, and I homeschooled them. We homeschooled, and we were eclectic, and we have 16 years difference between number 1 and number 7, and so life happens, and all of a sudden, you know how just the atmosphere and the tension and the frustration, everything's just mounting. You talk about the rug getting piled, and finally, I'm just like, fine, close your books, put them away, I'm making lunch. And I would go make lunch, and I'm calling it a day. And then this one day, this is what I did. I sat everybody down. I gave them all 3x5 cards, 7, and a pen or a pencil. And we went around, we had lunch, and we were just kind of chilling. We went around. I started with the youngest one first, and I said, okay, here's the rules. We're going to do something. I want each and every one of you to have the freedom and the courage to share how someone else offended you and what that meant to you, and to be able to share that. And then I said, and I'll go first. Who has a problem with mom? Everybody's and so I said, all right, Marion, now here's the other rule. No one else can talk while Marion's talking. You need to give her the floor, and she gets the floor for as long as she needs. It needs to be respectful,
Yes.
and it needs to be specific. And, Marion was young, like really young. So I started with her because I thought her attention
Oh,
span.
this one's going to be gentle and it won't hurt
Right,
me.
well, I did. I kind of thought it would be gentle. No, she went for the juggler. And so we did. We started with her, and we we started with prayer first because you just don't want her. And so we started with her and said, Marion, how has mommy offended you? And I wish I would have kept them, because she just shared sweet little things like, you didn't keep your promise, you didn't keep your word, which honestly is one of the biggest offenses parents can make that stick with a child.
They do.
Is
Yes.
not keeping our word. And they remember that, and they feel rejected or abandoned or disappointed or whatever. And she had some things that she said to me. So what I do on my 3x5, I'm writing everything she says down. And I am like not responding with justification, rationalization,
Just
no
listening.
excuses. I am listening. And then she gets done and I'm like, thank you, sweetie. That means a lot that you would share that. Is there anything else? Usually there is. Like that first round of questioning, that's just like this deep because they don't
Testing the
trust.
waters.
Yes,
Yeah.
they need to trust that
Yes.
I'm not going to go ballistic on them, especially if I have a pattern of blowing up. So now I've just shocked their socks off and they're like, oh, wait, what? And so is there anything else? Well, actually, and then they'll share some more. Now, here's the kicker. Every once in a while, you'll have all your other little kiddos taking up an offense for mom or for one another. In this situation, I had one child over here who had the gift of mercy, and she's like, oh, well, she apologized for that. And then little prophet over here, well, maybe she's not over it yet. And so now we're getting somewhere.
Right.
And then I just remind them, I appreciate both of your input and you're right. We're going to go back to the rule. It's Marion's turn and we're going to abide. And so we go around and it sometimes is a 2-hour, when you have 7 kiddos, it's a
It
2-hour
takes some
lunch.
time.
Yeah.
And so everybody had a turn to do that. And everybody had 3x5 cards. And then we would break. And then they'd go off to the room or go outside for a walk or whatever. And we'd
Yes.
take like a half-hour break. Here's where it really got good. You take your 3x5 and you're reading through it and you're just examining your own heart. Is there anything on this that sticks? I call it the spaghetti test. It's like
Stick to the wall?
throw it against the wall. If it sticks, own it.
Yeah.
Yes.
If it doesn't, let it slide off and don't even say anything about this. Just,
Right.
recognize that
That's
this
good.
was theirs.
That's true
Yep.
for them.
That's true for them, but it's not sticking. I'm not taking ownership. They don't
Right.
understand. They didn't, blah, blah, blah. And then we get back together and they actually kind of start pairing up and they go to each other and they'll take that card that person said to them and say, you know what? Mommy did not keep her word. I said that we were going to go to the park and I am so sorry. I know that hurt your feelings and I know, so I'm identifying, I'm acknowledging it. I'm sorry. I know I'm relating to how it made her feel.
Yes.
I know this made you disappointed. And can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Let's try to put it back on the calendar. Let's make another time. Can you forgive me? And all of a sudden she's like beaming and absolutely, I'll tell you what, when you do that, it's like honeymoon.
Clears the air.
Clears
Yep.
that air. That rug is done. It might only last for 2 weeks, but it's the best 2 weeks
ever.
of your life.
But if you've done that and you've modeled it and then you do it on a semi-regular basis,
Yes.
it doesn't
It's not piled
pile
up.
up.
Right.
It doesn't. I love that. I mean, I absolutely love that because what do we all want as humans? We want to be heard. We want to be seen. We want to be validated, right? I mean,
respect.
that's really
We sure
what it
do.
is. And so
And we
when
want peace.
we give the
Yes.
other person, when
Yes.
we're honest with the other person, remember it's not all about us.
It's
It's about
not.
the relationship
It is.
and maintaining that relationship. And trust me, I am a person, not anymore as much, but when I got hurt a lot as a teenager and as a young person, and so I would just be like, nope, and I would shut people out
Cut
of
'em
my
off,
life.
yeah.
Literally, like we were friends one day, and the next day I was like, I'm good,
You're talking about me, aren't you?
I
You're
am,
just
Heidi. How did you know?
describing me.
I know. Did you get my text?
You were
But I did.
pretending it was you, but that was me.
I didn't understand the depth that relationships could have. I didn't get that because I didn't
Right.
have any deep relationships.
Well, if you don't have deep roots, you can chop that thing off
you
and
can.
be done. There's
and you're
no
like, oh,
loss.
I'm done.
No
I'm
loss.
good.
Yeah,
And then
no
you
investment.
literally don't feel it because you didn't have that deep connection, and so
Right.
you can just kind of go.
There wasn't
I'm
a
good. It's
prolonged
fine.
loss because of it.
You might not feel it at that moment, but then as
It
it,
will.
builds a pattern, then all of a sudden now you are defining yourself as unloved or
Yeah,
rejected.
why do I have
or-
no friends
Yeah, no
and
friends.
all that?
Yeah,
Well,
nobody
well,
gets
that's because I
me.
kept leaving everybody.
oh, whoops.
Huh, let me think about that.
Oh.
And in stark contrast, My husband has friends that he has known for 40 years. And I'm like, how did you do
did
that? You
Scott,
know,
I know,
like-
that is
but
the
he
most foreign
invests in
thing.
relationships. He
Yeah.
deals with problems head on, which has been very interesting in our marriage because here you have me coming from the household where I never thought my parents argued ever. Like they never showed me about arguments, which meant that I never saw anything
resolve.
resolved ever. And so that was where I came from, thinking life was hunky-dory and totally cool. And then he came from a family that deals with things to this day. I mean, they're like, hey, let's deal with this. Let's talk about this right now.
Much healthier.
And those two worlds just collided. And the first couple years of our marriage was just, it was crazy because I'm like, why do we have to talk about this? You know,
I know,
and he's like,
it's not
we
how
have
you
to
do
deal
it.
with this right now. And I'm like, I need to run away. And he's like, I'm going to chase you. And I'm like, don't chase me. Like, just... Anyways, we're better now. We're not perfect. Let me tell you that. But after 23 years, we have started.
Learned.
I'm learning. He's been maintaining the whole time. But, you know, anyways. But again.
But resolving it in front of your kiddos
is
is
so
another
important.
crucial. When we fight in front of them and then go behind closed doors or go for a ride or do something else, and then all of a sudden we come back and everything's okay.
They're like, how'd you get from A to B? Like,
I-
what?
I know.
How
A
did you
pint of
get
ice
there?
cream and a line
That
of
was where
Oreos.
the
That's
eggshell
how.
thing
So-
for me
Yeah.
came in. Like, wait a minute, is it safe? Like, I'm not hearing doors slamming or anybody yelling anymore. Is it okay? Oh, I guess we're okay. All right, we're okay. But
right.
I don't know
How'd you
how
get there?
we got there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think that that's really important. And I think too, you know, you guys have adult children and I have almost two adult children and a teenager. And I'm still learning, especially with this adult relationship thing.
It's different.
Because I'm not just the authoritarian person anymore. And I think that for me was a difficult transition to go from, well, I'm the parent, so
That's
of
why.
course they're not going to question me. You know, like what? And then as they became teens, I was like, oh, wait a minute, my role has changed, and we need to like talk about things more.
To prepare them.
And I'm not perfect at it at all in any way, and I mess up a lot. But I do try to go and talk to them and to kind of have that conflict resolution about things. And then my nature, like I said, I just bottle things up. I hide things. I scream and yell and throw things. And
And I think that's how it can informally and more personally happen. That little, that was a formal roundtable session of resolution,
Right.
reconciliation.
Yes.
But going, and don't you find, I don't know, in my house, it was the 11 o'clock to midnight conversation. That's when the guys opened up, or that's when somebody came in and sat on the bed and we started talking. It was like the house was quiet. They were vulnerable. They were scared. They couldn't sleep. I don't know. Their head, like I did that when I was little. That was when I finally just went crazy in my head. And I don't ever remember going into my mom and dad's room and sitting on their
Never.
bed talking.
oh, I
Never.
never
I've
did
never
that
had.
once.
And
I've
don't
never
you
had an
feel like the
at-length
best
conversation with my
resolutions
parents.
are the ones where you're not talking?
Yes.
You're just listening to their heart. And my kids actually taught me this as parent to child. Two things that I'm learning really fast. One, do you want to just share with me? Are you just sharing your heart? Or do you want me to give you advice?
Right.
Yes.
Do you need
That's-
to just
Clarify
dump? Are you
that in
just
the
venting?
beginning.
Yep.
Mom, do you need me to just listen to you?
Yes.
Or do you want my input? That's
That-
maturity.
It's
It's huge maturity. And
love that.
it works.
And the
It
other
does.
well when you do it right.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, we have, and I'm glad that you mentioned that because with Robert and I, the only time we ever had those moments is when he's trying to fix it. And I'm like, all I wanted was you to listen.
Yes.
And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, but he didn't know that.
Right.
And he's a fixer.
Yep.
And he's a guy.
He adores me and loves me and he wants to fix everything. So I have promised him if it's a heavier, serious conversation, I will specify at the beginning, I just need you to listen. Or I will let you know that I need your help
Yeah.
with this situation. And then he can step into that role that I need him to be for me at that time. And he goes, I'm not frustrated. You're not frustrated. We're not misunderstanding what
Right.
this is.
And it doesn't mean I don't ever want to come back to
Yes.
it. I just need time now to get it all
I
out.
need to say it.
And then, maybe in a few hours, maybe tomorrow, whatever.
Right.
Check back with me, will you?
Yes.
That's so hard to do. I have done that before. I'm not very good at it, but it's so
Takes
hard
practice.
to do in the moment
It is.
of frustration. I mean, you're just like,
I want you to hear
I'm
me.
like a volcano. I explode a lot, but that's okay.
Yeah.
That's
why your hair is red.
It just does its thing. My outside matches my inside pretty well. But it is hard for me in that moment to say, I just need you to listen to me.
Yeah.
It is
I
hard.
just need to
I
want
wanna
to
be heard.
Or I need help right now. And I
Yes.
feel like my husband's laughing across the room because he knows that I'm right on that one because I'm not very good at it.
You can talk to Robert. He gets it.
Why I'm laughing, and this won't be on there, but you were talking about the hair. That's why she's a redhead. And what I heard when you said the outside matches the inside is I was thinking, oh,
The carpet matches.
That is so Guy. Oh, that is so Guy. Oh, my word.
Thank you, Erin.
That
You
just-
always have something informational for
Doesn't
us.
he though? Oh man. But
Well,
yeah. On that
Speaking
note-
of carpets
note-
full. Is your carpet full or shaved?
nice full rug.
70s shag carpet. No, it's like,
I wax my rugs.
Oh my gosh, yes.
But not my drapes. My drapes are white. Oh, my word.
yes.
Why am I so red?
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Oh, that's good stuff. But yeah,
Well, the other thing that I think is really huge is being able to. Oh my word! I lost it. Give it back to me.
just look at your script.
I know. I think it's on that last page. Just
Page
before we
6.
flip.
Oh, ding, ding, ding. Parents instruct, children explain. And if we can understand that a child wants to explain, they want to just rationalize, explain, ask questions, and parents not out of authoritarian, not that way, not a dictatorial kind of thing.
It's their
But we
role.
instruct. We
Right.
instruct with wisdom and
Yes.
boundaries. Boundaries are so huge. And it's like, and we instruct by saying, I know you're really upset, but this is inappropriate or this is unacceptable. Okay, so here's one of the things that I used to say to my kids, and they were so young, and I am such an idiot for saying it.
I can't wait. I've got a million of them.
They would start going off, having this huge meltdown, and then they'd be screaming and yelling, and I mean, yes, they were 3 and 4 and 5. And
That's
I would
a lot
say,
of noise.
and I would say that is an unacceptable form of communication.
I said, I
And
don't
then you
speak.
go, what?
No, that is an unacceptable
Sorry.
form of communication. I was instructing.
I simply went
you
with
spell
I
that
don't
for me?
I don't speak that language. I'm sorry. Just like we don't speak that in this. Oh,
You know
Oh,
what?
that's funny.
Kayla said that to her kids not too long ago, and she texted me and said, I cannot believe
Oh, no.
I said that is an unacceptable
Like
form
those
of
moments, I
communication.
will never do what my parents did.
Right?
You're doing it.
Yeah. But
Yes.
in that, Jess, it is okay to say that's not acceptable.
it is.
And then the consequences.
Right.
Not the giving them to the count of 3 or giving them
Right.
over and over and over what's going to happen if they
Right.
do it
Right.
again when they've done it again a
Yeah.
bazillion times.
Yeah.
It's
Life
just like,
doesn't
you
count
know
to
what?
3.
We're going to have to take those away right now, or we're going to have to not go there right now because this is unacceptable. And when you pull yourself together, then we can talk about it again.
Right.
That is the instruction side
Yes.
where we don't have to explain because da 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 da.
Right.
And then I think we also always add a little thing on the end of what we say we're not going to do that, okay?
Oh my gosh.
We're not going to do that,
I've done
okay?
Way too
Because
many times.
it's almost
gonna
as
do
if
that.
we
I've
are
done that. Way too
because
many times.
it's almost as if we are giving an option.
Right. To
And
something
there's no
that
option
isn't
to
an option.
obedience.
Right.
There's no option
well,
to
the other option is disobedience, and that comes with then there's going to be discipline
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
consequences. So it's not that you're taking all their options away because they have one.
Yeah.
You can choose to do it this way, and it will go much better
Yeah.
for all of us, or not. And then now we have to deal with that decision
Yeah.
and
Right.
choice.
And I know we kind of it was a little branch off, but it's still, it gets under the rug.
It does.
Because it
Yeah.
builds.
Right.
And then we have this habit, and so our kids are going to respond to the habit. I just read a study. It only takes 3 times for an infant to develop a habit. If
I want to be an infant. That is so much
3
faster than adults.
times.
Man.
I wish I could credit who I saw this through. If you rock your baby to sleep, you like nurse your baby, rock your baby to sleep, and then put them down 3 times, and
They've
then
learned.
you can't do that. Like you nurse your baby and you just put him down, and they cry and cry and cry. It's because
You skipped
they've
that.
already,
They already learned
established
that.
a habit. So when you think about what we
Interesting. Wow.
and I have always thought it takes 3 days. If anybody doesn't know who Kevin Lehman is, the birth order book,
I know
and
about birth orders.
How to
I'm the
Have a New
author.
Kid by Friday. Kevin Lehman Ross.
Quick reproduction.
Yeah.
quite ready.
His philosophy is 3 days. It takes 3 days to reverse whatever bad habit.
Fascinating.
And I think that kind of, if it only takes 3 times for an infant and takes 3 days for a teenager, we just have to be consistent. Do the right thing.
Consistency is huge.
Yes.
You know, I've always thought that either whether you're parenting or in your relationships or whatever it is,
Yeah.
it's all about consistency.
It is.
You know, that's, and while you were saying that, I was also thinking about naming the emotion, and is it anger or is it hurt? Or is it frustration? But it's all going to look like, excuse me, like anger.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So a lot of times our children or ourselves appear to be very angry about a situation. And then when you take the time to listen to them and work it out or really think about it on your own,
Probably frustration.
you realize that it's from a place of hurt or frustration or even like
Maybe even fear. Yeah.
a miscommunication of some sort. That's not what I meant, and it came out that way.
Right.
And then you get angry at yourself, and then they're angry, and you're angry, and everybody's angry, and it just simply was you were speaking one language, and they were speaking a different language, and it didn't translate.
Didn't mesh.
And I've been noticing, like in my own life, a lot lately, that my family's been like, "Why are you so angry?"
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know. Why am I so
Why
angry?
am I?
But wait a minute. Am I angry? Or am I scared? Am I frustrated? Am I sad? Am
Yes,
I, you know what I'm
defining
saying?
it.
All of those things. But to the outside world, it just appears like I'm a
appears.
very angry person.
I think that comes from unyielded rights, to be honest. When we have an expectation and we feel like we have a right to have, my trigger was always time management. When I felt like my time was not being valued and just taken advantage of, and then we were late or I didn't get to do homeschooling the way I wanted to. I had a special plan. I, went to all this work to make something really super fun, and I was going to be the
Yes.
cool mom. And then nobody cooperated. My rights were so violated. And then I ruined the whole day because they violated my rights.
I had a plan, and
Right?
I had that
Yeah.
even when I was teaching. I'd be like, you guys, we didn't even get to the lesson that I was
Yeah.
so excited about
Yeah.
because you just couldn't get in line.
You're
you know?
right.
But that is what it is. It's,
Yeah.
it's that,
Unmet expectations
Yes.
and unyielded rights.
yep, yep.
And sometimes that can lead us to the anger. But if we can identify, it's more attitudes than actions. It's the mental thing that
Yeah.
yields. It kind of goes down to the heart. The heart establishes attitudes. The attitudes establish emotions. The emotions react and make actions, and then we have a whole
And
pattern.
I'm one of those people that you can tell how I'm feeling based on my face.
Yeah.
Apparently, I don't
Body
have a poker
motions.
face.
Like I don't hide things very
There's a
well.
song about that, isn't there? I just went there.
Yeah, poker face. Yeah, I don't have one. I think I do. And then I realize I don't. But
But I think being honest with, so I used to, when my kids were younger and stuff, they would, Mommy, are you okay? Oh, I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm fine. I was always fine. And I'm like, wait, that's not okay. Well, I should be able to tell them based on obviously their maturity level and stuff, but
they were recognizing that
mommy's
something
sad,
was going on.
or mommy's frustrated, or mommy's whatever, so that they know that it's okay for them to say, well, I'm frustrated with this, or I'm sad
Right.
about this, or whatever. But
Right.
if I keep just telling them, I'm fine, I'm fine,
That's so good.
I'm fine, I'm fine, and then I go in my room and
I'm
I'm crying
okay.
and they can hear me when I don't think they can hear me,
That's
or I'm in
scary
the
to
shower.
kids.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
Then
scary
they're
to
going,
kids.
wait a minute, what did I do? And the kids,
They're internalizing
yes,
it.
Yes.
completely,
Because you didn't tell them, you weren't honest with them.
and it had nothing to do with them, but they think that it does.
And I was thinking, even if you said, I'm really frustrated, not about anything that has to do with you. I'm frustrated about that. And it's almost like the catalyst that can actually bring us into
yes.
Right.
a real positive, healthy way of dealing with what's under the rug.
Yep. And I've just recently gotten better at that as my kids have gotten older. And I have had great conversations with them and just said, this is what I'm dealing with right now. Like my son literally yesterday, asked me why it is that I get so upset about things, like just so stressed out, so upset about things. And I looked at him and I was like, I don't know.
No.
I said, but I do know that I struggle with mental issues. I have a lot of depression and a lot of anxiety. And I said, so it could be that I'm having a flare up of that, at this moment or whatever. But I said, I honestly don't know. I don't have an answer for you on that. And then we had a little bit of a further discussion and we were trying to kind of just break it down. But he was asking a genuine question, like,
Yeah.
why
He was
is
trying
it
to understand.
you get so stressed, and he was so sweet. And then he said, well, just so you know, you're not here by yourself. And we're doing this together and we're this whole family. And I'm all like, now I'm even more of a puddle,
He's
but
his
it's just-
mama's
It was
son.
so sweet. But
It's
again,
beautiful.
because we're willing to have those open, honest conversations
Yeah.
with our children. And even our children have said that each of them at different times. What do other kids' parents like? Do they just not talk to them? Like they've never known a world where there isn't a lot of conversation, and then they see their other friends, and they're like, yeah, our friends' parents would never talk to them about that, or never,
Yeah.
And it's so sad.
It is.
Because I'm like, well, where's their support system then? Who do they come home from school and talk to, and who do they vent to when they're having a bad day and do, like we've gone up to the school and have calmed them down in different situations, and they're like, oh yeah, my friend's parents would just be like, suck it up, buttercup,
Yeah.
and keep going, and it just breaks my heart
Yes.
that is the reality for so many people.
Yeah.
And again, it's that whole, for some reason, adults think that children should be seen and not heard, and
it's such
that old
nonsense.
school mentality. But you know what I'm saying?
Well, I think a lot of people think children should adult.
Yeah.
yes.
We just
Yes.
don't give
we
them.
want them to act like this.
Yeah.
And that's how it's got to be.
How many times have I said to my 18-month-old, "Will you stop acting like a baby?"
When are you going to grow up?
yeah.
Sorry, I'm 4. yeah.
I know. I
And
think
then
it's
we
our
turn around when they
adult
are grown up and we're
impatience.
like, oh, it went so fast.
Yeah.
What happened?
Yeah.
Oh, man. Yeah, we're just never content, are we?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I think-
contentedness, that's
Yeah. I think
the
that it
thing.
has to come, we'll come kind of back up to this and then we can kind of end this here. But coming from it being your desire to have stronger conversations, your desire to build those relationships. So again, we're going to be willing to be open and honest. We're going to model it for the other person, whether it's an older person or a younger person or a same age person, and own our part of things is such a big part of it.
It's important to
Yes.
make sure
Yes.
that it's a safe environment, that it's a structured environment, and that there are boundaries. Like,
Yes.
I want to have a conversation,
good reminder.
and it's not all about me.
Right.
It's for the sake, because I love you. I
Right.
care for you.
Value that relationship.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this means so much to me. And I feel like we have an impasse, or I feel like it's been damaged. Call it what it is.
Right.
And say, are you willing to have that conversation? And it might not be right then. That
Right.
might not be the best
Make sure
time.
it's the right time.
Make sure you're
for
not
that.
hungry, angry, lonely, or tired.
Ooh,
Oh,
yeah.
that's going to be.
And then plan it.
Do I have moments like that?
And then actually plan a date. Like
Yeah.
put it on the calendar and make it and
Prioritize
maybe
it.
even it might need to be in a public setting.
Right.
A park or a restaurant or
It'll vary depending on what conversation.
what
you're
kind
having.
of
Yes.
relationship it is and what you're going to be talking about and who you're going to be
Yes.
talking to, because having those hard conversations where there is so much what underneath that rug needs to be in a safe place. And honestly, you might want to call a friend and say, hey, I'm going to be having a conversation and I'd really appreciate whether it's your prayers, your support, just something.
Yeah, that you're not in it alone.
Right. Because, that's a hard one, but it can be hard for that person too. Like if you've made the agreement that let's get together at this time and let's just talk about some of this stuff, and that can make them be like, oh, their mind is just going the whole time. Well, what is this going to be like and how? So I can imagine you're already coming to it. I imagine myself, my anxiety would start ramping up because it's not my comfort zone, but I'm getting better with it. But I have to remember for the other person involved, they don't know exactly what I'm going to say yet. They're
Right.
very used to the old me and how I'd respond before. So I can only imagine the turmoil in their mind. And there's already going to, a lot of time, kind of be a little bit of a wall until I know how you're going to approach this
I
or
love
what it's
that you
about.
brought that up, because that's true. And so maybe you can even have that precursor conversation of, do you ever notice that when we get to this point, this happens? Does it bother you as much as it bothers me? Ask,
Right.
seek to understand.
And let them know that
We're-
you're caring about
Yeah.
their perspective and how they see
Would-
it and feel.
Are you
Right. It's a
open to having the
respect.
conversation so we can resolve
Yes.
this? Love you so much.
Yes.
And your relationship to me means so much. And I hate that this is going to keep going on. What do you think about us
Setting
getting
the
together?
tone before you even get
Right.
together with them.
Yep.
And then one final point being, how do we handle it if they don't respond the way that we want them to?
We
You
have
know?
to let it go.
We have to. We have to have the
We
grace
are not
in that
responsible for their
moment. We are-
response.
exactly. We are not. And it might take more than one conversation,
Correct.
like we talked about
Right.
earlier,
It usually has a bunch of time in the making. It's not going to be resolved immediately.
But I'll
It's
tell you, if
a
we
new
come
normal.
at it with that spirit of humility and
Yes.
we own our
Yes.
part first and then humble ourselves and say, I have brought a lot to this whole problem. And I
Acknowledging.
acknowledge it and I own it and I'm so sorry because it's damaged us. Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? There is something so powerful. You talk about
There
why
is.
is it so hard for us to
Right.
say that? It's because it's so powerful.
And we have to
and we don't
I know.
and we,
Owning.
but the beauty,
is.
the beauty and the release and the
Is so
freedom
worth
that
it.
comes
Yes.
and the friendship, the fruit of it is like, oh my word, why did I not do this?
Right. Because you'd want
So
somebody
long
to
ago.
talk to you that way.
Exactly.
Yes.
And yet we have such a hard time doing that.
Because
Yeah.
we
But-
want to be right.
Yep. So I have a challenge for you this week. I want you
Me
to
or
find
all of
one
them?
person, maybe even baby steps.
Ooh.
I want you to think of one person. And then maybe by next
They're
week,
probably
you can
already
talk
at the
to
top
them.
of the head.
You know,
Yeah.
you probably already know who
Yeah.
you're thinking of. But just think about this and think about what that relationship would look like if you were able to have these open and honest conversations with them, and how that would change the relationship. And then reach out to us. We would love to be able to be there with you, help you.
We have
you know,
resources.
and just walk alongside with you as you rebuild your relationships in life.
Yeah.
So,
I love that challenge and I will join it.
yay! I love it. You have homework.
I have been so busy cleaning up my side of the street. It feels really, really good.
Your side of the rug is clean.
It is. And I'm going to say that some of the other people involved have chosen very much not
Yeah.
to be part of my life here. And that's okay. They have made that decision and I respect that for them, but I respect myself
Yep.
for this much healthier way to live life right
Because
now.
you've done your part.
Yes. And I
You've
would-
done what you can do.
I would end with this really strong admonition too. Don't let the stuff under their rug start getting under yours again.
Yeah, you don't have
yes.
room under
Nope.
your no.
Nope.
You have
Don't share rugs.
no.
Nice.
I'm sure that's a rule or something,
I
right?
think so.
Yeah. What's under my rug is my rug.
Yeah, rugs are
Keep your
private
rugs
business.
keep your-
And on that note,
Bye.
oh, that was so good. That was so good.
You are so naughty.
I love it. I love it.
I know. And yet it's like could be nothing.
Here.
Yep. Nobody knows.
Cheers.
Thank you.